Hi everyone, and welcome back to yet another feature by the TheCapitalNet team. I'm Apoorva, and today we're going to look at why, in this world where there's no dearth of talent, why is it so difficult to sort of retain stakeholders and sort of build that stakeholder loyalty, especially in the VC landscape. Thank you, Jester. Thank you so much for taking our time for the TheCapitalNet TV. If you can tell us a little bit about you and your consulting firm, Benjamin Auctus.
Thank you for having me. To give a bit of an introduction, my name is Jester. I am based in the Netherlands, and I am the partner at Benjamin Auctus. And we are a consulting firm that is helping investment firms with three aspects: with attracting investors and deal flow, as well as reputation management and public relations.
Oh, that's really nice. And now that you're talking about the fact that you have worked with multiple, you basically work on these three things. What are the different examples of the investing firms that you essentially work with? Just if you can let us know.
Yeah, we mostly work with like different types of alternative funds. We also really like working with those funds. So you can think about real estate funds, hedge funds, venture capital funds, whiskey funds, like planting tree funds, like all kinds of funds. The more creative actually, the more fun it is going to be for us to do the marketing.
Yes, of course. And as you said, like today, there's such a plethora of firms that are investment firms that are out there. The marketing and obviously changes for every firm. So what you're also, there are stakeholders that are there with these investment firms. So who exactly are those stakeholders, if you can tell our viewers, Jester?
Yeah, when we are working with investment firms, we are mostly focusing on attracting stakeholders. Yeah. And those stakeholders can vary from attracting employees. Of course, most investment firms, they want to attract investors. They're going to be limited partners, but it can also be general partners, or if let's say you have a real estate firm, they want to build new buildings, then they may need to work with government officials to get permissions to start building. So there are all kinds of like different relationships that can be either in your company or outside your company. And in order to be effective as a company and also as an investment fund, it is very important that those different people can be attracted and that they want to work with you.
Yeah, so basically attraction and retention, right? So
yeah.
Speaking of attraction and retention of these stakeholders, how did the investment firms traditionally attract and retain these stakeholders that you were mentioning?
Yeah, because the investment firm landscape is very private, also because it's not allowed to do direct solicitation for many funds that don't have a license. A lot of fund managers are very like a little bit secretive, and they do it within their own network. So they have built a network over the years, and they are going to ask around like, hey, who knows the limited partners that I can work with? Do you know some government officials to get some permissions? Do you know a great analyst that can support my company? And they don't really go outside of their network. And that is something that with my firm, we can help with. Basically, they have their network, and we can help them expand their network, but we can also reach out to completely new people. And we have different strategies where we can go around the legislation, and we can still attract those people outside of this as well.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And also maybe as you spoke about the strategies, I think it is also the fact that traditionally these were just like a word of mouth thing. And today it's more about a digital spin to it, right? So coming from that, Jester, if you can tell us, why is it relevant for investment firms to focus on these digital strategies, which your consulting firm essentially helps them with? So why is it relevant for these investment firms to look at these digital strategies?
The strategies are like very important nowadays because there's competition and they may implement it. And I think the first thing actually is going to be efficiency. So we have been working with investment firms, and they literally still use pen and paper to write down and keep track of their network and things like that. And we can literally cut half of the team's effort in half by just digitizing everything that they are doing properly, using the right softwares and things like that. So just by doing that, we are already saving them a lot of time. But then especially when it comes down to like attracting those stakeholders, the investors, the top employees and things like that, you see a lot of like, especially in the employee landscape, like very talented investment managers and analysts and they are all going to the big firms because they are attracting them, and then you're left with talent that maybe not have that are not A players. But actually, we have strategies where we can attract so many different investors that it's going to be like a walk in the park to raise your fund.
Yeah, correct. And you mentioned a very important thing there, where like the top talent sort of looks at the top players, and maybe the differential over here is the marketing. And from that, I think, Esther, we'll come to why we are having this discussion. You've done a very beautiful and extensive white paper, which sort of looks at the stakeholder retention in this VC landscape, right? So in that, there is this one part which obviously is very pertinent, and I think our viewers sort of don't understand it, and that is the marketing and the legal limitations that comes with the marketing. So can you tell us a little bit more about the legal limitations? Because obviously viewers are very wary of the legal side of things. So what is marketing with legal limitations? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's probably something that we have come up with ourselves.
Yeah.
Like investment firms, if they don't have the license to actually do like public marketing, then they are not allowed to put it out there. And the reason for that is that like normal people who are not accredited investors, they shouldn't be getting all kinds of investment firms because they might make the wrong decision. And therefore, there's a lot of protection there. And this protection is really good that it's out there. But for many funds that don't have the license, because of that, they cannot do direct solicitation. And it basically means that they cannot just market and sell to people and say, hey, I have my fund here, I have a great investment opportunity, would you like to invest? So basically what we come up with is marketing within these legal limitations. And there we'd like to set up, as we like to call, investment vehicles, because you maybe not say like, hey, invest in my firm. But the thing is, someone who's a really great investor, they always have interesting things to say. And they actually don't need to at all do any type of marketing. A great example of that is, for example, Ray Dalio. He just writes a book. He has a lot of knowledge on the market. Nowhere in his book, like principles, he is marketing his investment fund. He is just sharing his knowledge, and a lot of people are buying his books. He's getting invited to different interviews and things like that. And I think that's the direction that the new age of fund managers should go towards. So you can think about starting a podcast, starting your own magazine, like basically anything that's going to be out there, and it's just you sharing your knowledge inside without directly soliciting your fund, is, I think, the best form of marketing regardless, because people, they really see you as an authority.
Yeah, correct. And that is at the fund manager level, right, Esther? So now if there are a few solutions at the investment firm level, if they have to implement this marketing within the legal limitations, what would those solutions be at the investment firm level?
Yeah, so one thing that we like to do is turn the partners of an investment firm into like personal brands. So they should be out there and they should be blogging. They should be doing events. They should be doing webinars, and just really being out there. And also what works great is, for example, a Q&A, a weekly Q&A. Everyone can come into an online webinar and there will be questions about that particular investment market. And then you can build a following. And then there are accredited investors in that following base. They will eventually reach out and they will eventually become an attractive partner.
Yeah, no. So basically sort of establishing on that online presence that you were talking about, right? So yeah. Speaking of that online presence, why is it so important? While obviously, as you said, that if you have these frequent Q&As, there is a sort of a presence that is there and there is a channel for people to reach out to you. But why is it so important apart from that? And what would be probably the best practices to sort of, establish this online presence?
The reason why online presence is so important is because everyone is going to check you out on Google. So if you're going to work with someone and you don't know someone, everyone, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go to Google, they're going to type in their name, and they're going to see what's going to come up. And therefore, the online presence is so important. I believe when people Google you, it's going to hurt you, whatever they see. It's going to be neutral and you don't gain anything, or it's going to add something. And ideally, it's going to add something. But now an example of something that's going to hurt you is, let's say they Google you, they find nothing, they only find like a LinkedIn page. It seems like abundant, like too two connections and no profile picture. And immediately you think, who's this person? Well, what's this person hiding? And I think this is hurting someone. I think something neutral could be just a normal profile. You see the experience and you're like, okay, this is fine. And then I think an example of what really helps you is actually having some content out there, having some articles, having some interviews done, and people can look into you and they can actually learn more. And I think at that moment, it's actually an extra bonus when they Google you. And it's an opportunity that it's so simple to do. You don't have to go crazy out there, but just not doing it, to me, it's a bit of a waste.
Yeah, basically not doing it is doing you more harm than probably the good that will come by just doing it, the bare minimum, right? So yeah. Coming from that, Jester, I'll go back a little bit and come to stakeholder retention that we mentioned earlier, right? Now with retention, sort of loyalty is a given, right? Like when you have to retain any sort of a stakeholder, the loyalty sort of comes with it. So, and there's this term that you use in the paper, which is stakeholder loyalty. So if you can explain what stakeholder loyalty is to our viewers.
Yeah, like stakeholder loyalty is really the retention of the stakeholders. So again, the stakeholders can be limited partners, employees, it can also be suppliers, and those are the stakeholders. And then their loyalty is them staying with your brand, even when you're going through tough times. So a great example of that is, I'm not going to call any names, but there have been funds and they had really bad returns, like horrific returns. And they were still able to maintain the majority of their investors, and these investors, they lost a lot of money, but they did because they believed in the brand that was behind it. And I would really consider that staying loyal to the brand.
Yeah, and what are the few ways to sort of improve this? Because as you said, that without taking any names, but there have been things in the market where even without great returns, they still had the top talent. So what are the ways to improve the stakeholder loyalty, if you can tell us?
Yeah, one very interesting research that I also mentioned in my white paper is that 12% of stakeholder loyalty is directly related to the reputation of the firm. Mm-hmm. So when the firm has a good reputation, then people want to be associated, which also makes sense because even if you are yourself as a person, you kind of are a personal brand, you want to be related to, let's say, a JP Morgan or like a Goldman Sachs, because it will boost yourself and it will give you more opportunities. So the reputation of your firm, which is mostly PR, is very directly related. And the other part of loyalty really comes down to communications, and actually very simple things like communicating properly, sending back an email on time, sometimes giving a phone call and asking how things are going. And that's for basically all types of stakeholders. People think that, oh, my employees are leaving because I cannot give them all this money or things like that. And it's just not, it's completely not true. I've set up a foundation for one of my clients, and we were able to work with 20 volunteers for over 6 months. They were not paid because they really liked the brand behind it. And also from the leadership perspective, we really did our best to just be there for them. And that's really what people are looking for. So if there's an investment firm or any type of firm out there, they would like to improve the loyalty of all their stakeholders, I think the first thing they should look at is, how can I improve my service? And even suppliers, so let's say your accountant or your lawyer or people like that, if you work with the very best, ideally, they also have a lot of choices that they can work with. And even with them, like, be respectful to them and things like that, that makes the biggest difference. And after that, maybe start looking in PR and improve the reputation of your firm overall.
No, makes sense. And you said a very right thing, that at the end of the day, it is about the accountability. If a person feels accountable for whatever they're working on, sort of the loyalty just creeps in automatically. It's not always about the finances. So
yeah, and it's really nice. Like in the pitch deck, I also shared a statistic, and it also shows that like a lot of high net worth individuals are leaving their financial advisors. And I'm just quickly checking here. The biggest reason why they're leaving their financial advisor is because they're not returning their phone call on time. That's 55% of the reasons for that specific research. So That's just crazy. Like all these financial advisors, they're basically losing their clients just because they try to give them a call and they are waiting like 2 weeks before they respond. If you just respond within like 2-3 days with a phone call, that's really all they expect from you. They don't need to have crazy returns with like 30% return. If you just have a 1% return for 5 years straight, that's all they need. It's all to just combat inflation, and they just want you to be there for them and just pick up the phone.
No, very interesting point, Jester. And with that, I would also come to sort of maybe the last part of this interview where we sort of help our viewers to understand what might be the most ideal way to maybe have a marketing infrastructure in an investment firm. If you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I think the ideal structure, it depends on which phase you are as an investment firm. I think the first phase would be just yourself, maybe business partner, maybe a few team members, but definitely below 10 employees. I think in that case, don't even try to build a marketing team because you're just going to lose so much time on it. I think in that case, it's better to maybe outsource some of the investment work because you can probably do that very well as a leader, and then take a little bit more responsibilities upon yourself as a personal brand. Just be out there doing some speaking and things like that, writing articles. And I think that's really the first phase. And then I would only start building if you can afford a senior marketing manager. So I would go, many companies, they first hire a junior and then they hire a senior, but in this case, it's best to go straight to senior. And the reason for that is that it's such a complex market. There are a lot of legislation, very difficult things. And you ideally work with someone who has either worked at a bank or at another investment firm for like 10 plus years. So they're real senior and they don't need to have your help. So I think that's the next phase, is to hire that senior marketing manager. What I definitely don't recommend is just hiring a junior, or even worse, someone who has no experience in the financial world. That's just usually going to be a very bad idea. And after that, when your fund is able to grow beyond that, then I will just make your senior marketing manager a director and have them start building their own team. I think this makes the most sense. And of course, like with my firm, we are specialized in fund marketing. So there are very few firms out there that do what we do. I think there are only like 5-6 firms probably in the world that are really doing what we do. And that can really save a lot of time if you have a good like synergy with an agency, or if you can find an agency that really understands your business.
Yeah. And coming from that, Jester, my final question is going to be that if somebody is looking for a way to reach out for you and your services, how can they reach out to you?
They can try to find me. I'm basically on every social media. I am on YouTube, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram. I'm everywhere, and you can just find me on my name everywhere, which is Jester Schilder. And then we also have a website for the firm, and the website is benjaminauctus.com. And there we are also trying to share white papers. Whenever there's new legislation coming out, we put it in a white paper, we put it on the website. We are writing articles, and even if you are not directly having a need for a marketer, or you are working yourself on the marketing, I would still recommend to find us and just use our resources to grow.
Yeah. With that, thank you so much, Jester. Thank you so much for taking our time for CapitalNet TV and letting our viewers know exactly how important it is for you to understand marketing and sort of how it plays into making sure that your brand and your investment firm is very well stocked in terms of stakeholders. So thank you so much for doing this for our viewers. And yeah, thank you so much, Jester.